Welcome to yet another edition of the Stats and Stacks podcast. For today, we're going over UFC 270. Recap of last week's return. Crushed it. I guess we needed that time off. Went 5 of 6 on picks. We missed on Chase Sherman by knockout, but again, we made that pick prior to weigh-ins. I should have just gotten off of it, but I just let it be, let it ride. God, he looked terrible at weigh-ins. He looked a lot flabbier than usual, and he fought like it. It was god awful. But again, that was a dog. He was a dog for a reason. But the other dog and the locks and the totals all hit. We cashed some serious money. Again, all the official picks are going to be over on Twitter, over on Instagram, over on TikTok. So make sure you're giving everything a like, give it everything a follow, and just ride the hot hand and get paid with us. But again, we have the first pay-per-view of the year. It's an okay one, not a lot of big names on it. For true fight fans, it's not a terrible card. But even for a diehard fan, there's a little more I wish for the very first pay-per-view of the year. But hey, fights are fights, and I'll watch anything. So at the end of the day, I'm okay with it. So I'm not going to waste your time too much longer. We have a 15 fight card to get to. So let's not waste any more time. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to start with the very, very first fight of the night. And I know that the things it's been kind of shaken up a little bit in regard to the fight order. No one really knows the true fight order. I've seen different ones on here, so again, we'll make sure we get you. We're just going to follow Tapology here and just kind of ride from there. So again, we'll start with the very first fight of the night. Per Tapology, we have Kay Hansen going up against Jasmine, God bless her name, Jasduvicious. Her Jasmine is a plus 185 dog. Kay Hansen minus 225 favorite. Over under set at 2.5. Over 2.5 minus 280. Under 2.5 plus 210. Let's start with Kay. Man, she is super, super young, man. She's 22. She's okay. She does seem a little green, but again, she's only 22 years old. So she's good for her age. She's kind of short, not a big reach, but packs a little bit of power, a little pop in those punches. Pretty good ground game. I don't know what level belt she is, but again, she started from scratch there, and she's got some submission wins over some pretty good people here, neck cranks and triangle arm bars. And Jinyu Frey is a veteran of the game, so that's impressive. Even though she was getting worked that fight, still she has a lot of submissions on here and ground and pound. Otherwise, I mean, I don't have a ton to say about her. I know she has 100% takedown defense in the UFC, and that's going to be very big when it comes to this fight. I know her cardio checks out. Again, she has some third round finishes in here, multiple. And she's getting better and better each and every time. There's not really any negatives on her outside of just her experience. She only has 11 pro fights, but again, she's fighting good competition. Corey McKenna's good, and I thought she won that fight. I had money on Corey McKenna, and I thought that Kay won that fight. So hey, it is what it is. I'll just take the win there. She was getting the crap kicked out of her by Jinyu Frey, but then she came back and submitted her. She fought Erin Blanchfield, who's in the UFC. Like, she has some pretty decent fights on here, and she's holding her own. So again, she's super young, but she's super talented, and she's only going to get better. If you think she's hot, she has an OnlyFans account. So that's another thing she has going for her, I guess. If she loses 2 in a row or 3 in a row and the UFC wants to cut her, she already has a following, so let her do her thing. On the flip side, I know Kay she had a softball background. She doesn't have a wrestling or a jiu-jitsu or anything background. She learned it all at once. And the same goes for Jasmine. And all you're going to hear about is Jasmine's story and how she became an MMA fighter when she went with a friend on a blind date, double date ordeal. And the guy that she was talking to was an MMA coach, and then he told her to come to the gym and come see him, and then she kind of fell in love with the sport and just started fighting at age 30. Now she's 32 when she's in the UFC. So it's not as if she's been doing this thing a long time. I mean, she turned pro back in 2019. So yeah, she's only been in the game less than 3 years here. And her fights are interesting. She started off at 115 at strawweight, and that weight cut was crazy. She's a big girl to make 115, huge reach. I mean, she has a 5-inch reach advantage on K right now, and this is flyweight. She lost to Elise Reed in a split decision. Elise is also in the UFC, more of a karate style, but everyone and their mother is screaming robbery there. I watched the fight. I thought that Jasmine won as well, but whatever. I'm glad she lost because one, it gave her a valuable experience because it was a close fight, and secondly, it made her jump up to flyweight, where I think it's a little better for her. She's not cutting as much. She looks a little better. Jasmine does gas out a little bit, but she calls herself the female GSP, and that's exactly how she fights. All she has is a really, really stiff jab, some good takedowns, and she controls you on the ground. So if you remember the GSP decision phase towards the end of his career, it's exactly how she fights. She just jabs you away. She has no other striking. She just jabs. She goes for takedowns, whether it's a trip, whether it's a blast double. She doesn't discriminate as long as she can get you to the ground because she is not a good striker. All she has is a jab, which is, I mean, she has a reach on everyone, so she's trying. Her ground game's okay. She's only like a blue belt, but again, it's not as if Kay is some sort of third-degree black belt. So all in all, I would say that Jasmine is probably the better wrestler, but Kay has 100% takedown defense. This is a better wrestling build, especially to kind of stop her takedowns. All in all, I would say Kay is a better striker, but Jasmine has a 5-inch reach advantage, trying to paw away at her and keep her away. And then the submission game is really just a wash. So I think this is a 50-50 fight. Initially, I was going to go with Jasmine at plus 170 odds, but that 100% takedown defense and just Kay's stature made me flip. So I am going to go with Kay here. Jasmine's super tough. I don't think she finishes her. I think it's just going to be a decision. So I would actually try to get a little bit more money on Kay and take Kay by. She could tap her out. I would just take Kay and just eat the chalk here. I really did want to place a bet on Jasmine, even bet her earlier in the week, and I need to hedge in a parlay or something because I changed my mind. Kay's wrestling just looks pretty on point. So if Jasmine can't get this to the ground, she's screwed. So the pick is going to be Kay, and the bet, unfortunately, would be Kay or the over. Pretty close odds to each other. I'd probably just take Kay straight up. All right. Then the next fight of the night, we have Matt Frevola going up against Girano Valdez. This is a very, very interesting fight here. Valdez being the undefeated fighter coming off of Contender Series. Matt Frevola being the UFC vet. Matt being UFC vet is a minus 190 favorite. Valdez plus 160, over under set at 2.5. And it's basically a pick 'em, over 2.5 minus 110, under 2.5 minus 120. Let's start with Valdez. He's overall a decent generalist. He has okay wrestling, he has okay striking, he has a decent ground game. He doesn't have a lot of big fights on his record. He's already 30 years old and he's not really fighting a ton of great competition here. So that's a little alarming. In his last fight, that's all you're going to hear about is the Patrick White fight, where he was a minus 10,000 favorite or something crazy like that, or minus 1,000 favorite. He was a 10-1 favorite, and he came out and almost lost. But he ended up coming back in the second round and getting the early knockout as his opponent gassed. Yes, I understand he didn't look the greatest in that fight, but that's not the way he normally fights. He's usually a pretty strategic fighter. I think he knew he was on the Contender Series, and if you get a finish in Contender Series, you get a contract, and he fought like it. He did not try to save anything in the gas tank. He went out and tried to kill Patrick White, and he did in the second round. So yes, he got hit a shit ton trying to do so, but that's not the way he generally fights. He's going to have to fight a better fight against Matt Frevola here. Not that Matt Frevola is anything special. He's not the greatest fighter in the world. And in all honesty, he's very, very chinny. Yes, you can say he only got knocked out one time by Terrence McKinney in like 7 seconds. But at the same time, I watched this dude. I don't know how many of these guys' fights I watched, like 5 or 6 doing fight tape. And he gets dropped in every single fight. Like, I'm not exaggerating. Every single fight he gets dropped. Just Terrence McKinney finally put him out. But he doesn't. He has a glass chin, man. He recovers well, but if you catch him, he's going down. His striking's okay. His wrestling's pretty good. He trains over there with Aljamain and Marab and stuff, so his wrestling's pretty decent. Again, he's very hittable. He gets hit more than he dishes out. Um, and in regards to his takedown defense, it's hard to judge. He fought people like Arman. He fought people like Arman Charukian. He fought people like Jalen Turner. I mean, people that are decent wrestlers. Jalen's not the greatest wrestler, but Landa, Groovy Vanat is a sneaky good wrestler. Arman definitely messed with his takedown defense numbers there, though, because Charukian is a crazy takedown artist. But all in all, I'm not impressed with Frevola. Split decisions over Luis Pena. Luis Pena is not good. So having a split there isn't good. Getting knocked out in 7 seconds when someone took the pen at short notice isn't good. Jalen Turner is a good win here, but Jalen Turner was super young then. He was like 20 years old. So he just kind of took advantage of him. A draw with Groovy is okay. A loss to Polo Reyes is not good. And he did knock him out there. Jesus. I forgot about that one. I don't know. He's too chinny, man. I don't like betting Contender Series fighters in their debut. However, I really hate it when they're favorites. Valdez is the dog. He's undefeated. And Frevola is a glass chin. Valdez is pretty well-rounded. He's just a generalist. So I'll go ahead and I'll take the plus money in Valdez. So the pick will be Valdez. And honestly, the bet would just be him straight up as well at plus 160. All right. And then the next fight of the night, we talked about, we have Vanessa Demopoulos at minus 130, Silvana Juarez at plus 115, over under set at 2.5, over 2.5 minus 195, under 2.5 plus 155. Let's start with Vanessa. And we're going to start with Vanessa because we talked about Kay having an OnlyFans account. Well, Vanessa is a former Canadian stripper. So this card, when it comes to women's MMA, this card, they're looking more at how they look opposed to how they fight, apparently. But Vanessa, sneaky good, man. I know her record shows is 6-4. She's a lot better than that. When you look at her losses, JJ Aldridge is okay. She's not the greatest, but she's okay. Lupi Gomez is very good. Corey McKenna is pretty good. I mean, those aren't bad losses to have. She has wins over Sam Hughes, who's in the UFC. She has wins. So she's 7-4, 6-4, and all the fights I just named, which is more than half of her fights, are with people that are currently in the UFC. She's 33 years old, so she's not going to get much better than what we see right now. Her striking is not good whatsoever. She's very tough. Don't get me wrong. You're not going to go out there and knock her out. I don't think she's ever been knocked out. No, she's never been finished. And that's the other thing. Well, she in the amateur, Caitlin Chukagian, again, another UFC veteran. But again, in her professional career has never been knocked out. Durable, very scrappy is how I would describe her striking. Her jiu-jitsu is on point, man. She gets inverted triangles and arm bars, and she's good on the ground, man. She trains with Mackenzie Dern. She's very, very well versed on the ground. The only problem is she can't wrestle. So just like Mackenzie Dern, if she gets on the ground, she's going to tap you out. She'll even pull guard if she has to. But the problem is she really does struggle to get it there. So she's forced to scrap. She doesn't hit hard. She has pillow fists. She's durable. She'll take a beating, and then she tries to find a way to the ground. And when she does, she capitalizes. Silvana, on the flip side, she's an interesting case. One, she's coming from the combate scene, which isn't my favorite scene to come from. But looking at her record, she's 10-3. And her last loss against Lupi was via submission. And I watched some of her fights over in combate, and she was getting armbarred a ton. She kept getting out of it. And then she ended up winning some of these fights. But I watched like 3 other fights where she got armbarred and got out of it. She put herself in really bad situations on the ground. So she is very shady jiu-jitsu as to where Vanessa has really, really good jiu-jitsu. However, Silvana could hold her own on the feet. He's definitely the better striker here. Does she have the best striking? No, she's very hittable. She gets hit a lot more than she gives out, and you can back her up. But she swings back, man, and she's just as scrappy on the feet. She's 37, so she's a little older, just like Vanessa. Vanessa's 33, but 37 is getting up there. So she's not going to get any better from what we saw. In Silvana. But yeah, she's just overall a brawler. So you have two girls that are pretty hittable, two girls that just brawl on the feet. One of them has bad jujitsu, one of them has very, very good jujitsu. So if it's just a matter of if Vanessa can get it to the ground. I'll have to take, because she has the biggest advantage in the fight, I'll have to take her as the pick. In regards to the bet, I know Vanessa doesn't really get knocked out, but she could get clipped here, especially if she can't get it to the ground. Loopy took Silvana down and she popped right back up. The second time she got armbarred, but the first takedown, she popped right back up. So if Vanessa does get her to the ground and she doesn't put her away and she pops back up, Vanessa's in some problem. She's really in some trouble there. So the pick is going to be Vanessa. The bet, I'd honestly probably look at the under. And with it being plus money there, why not take the shot? Plus 155. So I'd either pass or go the under and try to make a positive out of it. In the next fight, we have someone that had an asterisk next to his name that said fade at all cost, and Simon Oliveira. He's going up against Tony Gravely. Oliveira at plus 195, Tony Gravely minus 240. Over under set at 2.5. Over 2.5 minus 140. Under 2.5 plus 110. If we're going to talk trash, we're going to start with Simon Oliveira. This guy is absolutely terrible. He is ass. Don't let the 18-3 record fool you. When you fight tape this guy, I saw not one, not two, I saw 3 guillotines that were like the slowest things I've ever seen in my life. Like the guys are literally just going for takedowns and they let him put a guillotine on. I'm very, very confused. It was definitely 1, 2, and 3. I watched them. I remember they were pretty consecutive, and I was very confused on what was going on. He has a ton of guillotine chokes. What the hell is going on here? So I mean, his ground game's not terrible. Don't get me wrong. He has to finish the moves, and most of his wins are predominantly by submission. But his gas tank is kind of shaky. He slows quite a bit. He has to go forward. If he gets backed up, he looks absolutely terrible on the feet. The only thing he really has on the feet is being aggressive and then throwing a whole bunch of spinning shit, a whole bunch of spinning back kicks, spinning back fists. The only difference is he's not good at it. He just throws it out there to keep your distance and stuff. Like he goes for stuff with no technique. I can't stand this guy. He's not good. His wrestling is awful. He's very, very hittable. I mean, I don't know how he got a contract. In all honesty, he won in the Contender Series via split decision over Jose Aldo. I don't know why he got the contract. He shouldn't be in the UFC. I understand that he's 30 years old. He's here. He made it. Congratulations, but he's not long for the UFC. This dude's going to be 2-0 most likely and get cut from the promotion. He's got awful. Which leads me over to Tony Gravely. Tony Gravely, something, man. I think he could be a top 5 guy in the division. And yes, at bantamweight, I think he's that good. The only problem with Tony Gravely is his gas tank, man. This guy has a Division 1 wrestling pedigree. The dude striking is getting better and better each and every time we see him. He is ever improving, working super hard. He's had a great camp at American Top Team. His ground game was a little suspect, but he's been working on it and he's getting a lot better there. So at the end of the day, you think there's not really much wrong with him. He always has the wrestling edge. He has a ton of power. He has wins over a lot of UFC vets. He has a lot of wins. His losses, oh my God, look at his losses. Nate Maness, really bad loss, but he beat the shit out of Nate Maness. Nate Maness lost that fight. They should have stopped that fight. Nate's corner, literally picked him up and put him on the stool, which I don't think you're allowed to do if the rules are correct. But hey, they did it. They woke him up because Nate was literally asleep. Then Nate comes out and knocks him out early in the second round. It was the weirdest fight. And you know what? Tony tried to finish the fight and gassed himself out. His gas tank is scary. He doesn't generally gas, but he slows considerably. Man. But outside of that crazy controversial loss, he lost to Brett Johns, who is an absolute beast. He lost to Patty Mix, who's an absolute beast. He lost to Manny Bermudez, who at that point was an absolute beast. He lost to Marab, who's an absolute beast. And he lost to Ricky. And Ricky that's the Ultimate Fighter winner, I want to say. Let me double check here. That is the correct one. That is not the correct one. Ricky, I don't know who this dude is. So, all right. Well, no, we're Ricky Tercio. So that's the one that won Ultimate Fighter. I don't know why I saw that, but anyway, he's lost, but to nothing but good competition. People have won a lot of fights in the UFC. All in all, he's a very, very well-rounded fighter at a great camp. Only 30 years old, still improving. Just suspect gas tank. Good news is he's fighting someone else that also slows down, but has nothing to offer outside of awful submission. So the pick is going to be Gravely. The bet is going to be Gravely as well. I kind of want to take him inside the distance, but Oliveira has never been finished, so I won't get too greedy. I'll just take the minus 240, and he might be one of the anchors in my parlays. If he's not the anchor, the next fight definitely is. I love this fight here. I have Jack Della Maddalena as a minus 310 favorite going up against Pete Rodriguez plus 250. Over under set at 1.5. Over 1.5 is plus 100. Under 1.5 is minus 130. Let's start with Jack. Jack impressed the hell out of me on Contender Series. Again, Oliveira was a Contender Series guy. I know he was the dog, but I thought he was that bad. I don't want to bet him. I don't like betting Contender Series chalk. However, his opponent is also making his debut, so it kind of cancels out here. Jack is 25 years old. The UFC loves him. How do I know they love him? His original bout was against Warley Alves. Warley Alves is someone who lost to Kamaru Usman. He's someone that beat Colby Covington. He is a former Ultimate Fighter winner. Like, Warley Alves has paid his dues, been in the UFC for a while, and has fought some big names. And they were going to give him a debut against him. Dude, his first fight ever, he lost. His second fight ever, he lost. Then he decided he's never going to do that again. And this dude has been on an absolute tear. Watching his Contender Series fight, Angelusa is no joke. Angelusa is pretty good. Angelusa, I believe, was undefeated at the time. I know I had money on Ange during the Contender Series. I know Gilbert Burns talks about Lusa and how he's one of his main training partners over at Sanford, and Jack beat the shit out of Ange. Jack looked better and better and better as the fight went on. He has good durability because Ange was catching him with some clean shots. I mean, Jack's 25. He's going to have those green mistakes, but he was durable. His cardio checked out. He was getting better as the fight went on. His striking looked phenomenal. His wrestling's okay. It's not the greatest. He can work on it, but his jiu-jitsu game's pretty good. So if you're good on the feet and you're comfortable on the ground, you're pretty set. He loves to go forward, high volume. I liked everything I saw. I was very, very impressed. I cannot say the same about the tape and Pete. Pete is a fill-in. The UFC likes Jack. They want to promote Jack, so they need to give Jack a fight where he looks good. I.e. Pete Rodriguez. Pete Rodriguez is only 4-0, and he's making his UFC debut. I don't know who he knows to get in. He's 4-0. All of his fights are first-round finishes by knockout. So basically, he just has a puncher's chance, and that's all he has. I know that he has a lot of fights as an amateur. Totally understand that, but a lot of those finished in the first round as well. Most of them did. So the one time he actually went to decision, he lost. So this dude got choked out when he got taken down to the ground. So basically, he's got to knock you out really early, or that's it. And like I said, Jack seemed very, very durable. I don't know how Pete's gas tank is. I have absolutely no idea in regards to his striking. I mean, it looked okay, but his hands were super low. Again, he's fighting very low level guys. I mean, the guys he fought are 1-0, 0-1, 2-2, and this last guy was supposedly 5-1. But again, last 2 minutes here. His wrestling, he did get a takedown in one of the fights. It looked all right, I guess. I have no idea, but I don't think it's good enough to take down Jack. So if he's not doesn't take Jack out in the first round, he's pretty much screwed. Jack is pretty durable. Jack is very good. Jack is going to win this fight. So the pick is going to be Jack. The bet, I definitely want to say Jack inside the distance and spruce it up. But I'll say Jack just straight up in basically every single one of my parlays. He is a lock of the night. He's definitely going to win this fight. All right. And then the next fight of the night's a pretty tricky one here. We have Trevin Giles going up against Michael Morales. Apparently, this is just the Contender Series card because there's a crap ton of these people from the Contender Series fighting. Michael Morales is minus 125. Trevin Giles plus 105. Over under set at 2.5. Over 2.5 minus 175. Under 2.5 plus 145. Let's start with Michael. Again, he was pretty impressive in the Contender Series. He's known as a pretty good striker, but he does have a wrestling background. And everyone expected him to come in and try to get a knockout and be an underdog in a Contender Series fight. But he came in and he used his wrestling, which was smart, caught his opponent off guard. And this dude he's undefeated. He's 22 years old, so he's super young. It's just the people he's fought are a little questionable. 8-5, 6-5, 2-0, 2-3, 0-0, 1-2, 0-0. Like, I don't know how good the Ecuador regional scene is. So the guys, he's not fighting really high level competition, but he's doing what he's supposed to against them. He's not just winning. I mean, he's getting finishes. So he's by submission, by knockout. He's doing it all there. So, getting some good ring time in. Again, his striking looked okay. Wrestling looked pretty good. You can back him up if you pressure him a little. And he can get a little sloppy when trying to counter strike, I noticed. But his cardio seems fine. He doesn't really hold anything back. He doesn't throw anything at like 70, 80%. He throws 100% into everything, and which can slow you down. I know his cardio looked fine in his Contender Series fight, but he also wrestled and was on top. So he wasn't exerting a lot of energy while on top. So we'll see. He does have a 5-inch reach advantage here with his huge going against Giles. That's pretty big for me. However, I think I am going to side with the dog or pass situation here in Trevin Giles, just solely on the fact that Trevin Giles has experience, man. This dude is 14-3. He's beat the likes of Brendan Allen. He fought people like Ike Villanueva. He fought other UFC vets and like Ryan Spann. He has some pretty decent wins on his record here. The thing is, he's fought as high as 205. He made a home at 185, and now this is his first fight at minus 170. So I need to see how that looks. I understand he wasn't the biggest 185 pounder, but from 205 to 170 is a little bit of a jump. So I need to see how he looks on the scale here. He should be fine making 170, but if it's the first time, you always have to double check. Overall, he's pretty good striking. They're a lot cleaner than I remember when doing fight tape. He's pretty clean on the feet. His wrestling underrated. It's very good, in all honesty. His submissions, I mean, he did well enough to avoid it from the likes of like Brendan Allen, who's a jiu-jitsu ace, but he even choked him out. But at the same time, he gasses. And he doesn't slow, he gasses. And when he gasses, you can tap him out like Gerald Mearshart did, like Zach Cummings did. He gets super gassed, shoots a super late takedown, like a super sloppy double, and gets guillotined over and over. That's what happens to him. So, I mean, I don't know. This is just a tricky fight. You have a UFC veteran as an underdog going against a Contender Series kid that's only 22 years old. I have to side with the veteran savvy here. I just need to see him at weigh-ins first. So the pick is going to be Giles. The bet's going to be Giles. But if he looks like absolute ass at weigh-ins, we're going to hedge and get off that and just honestly just all out pass. All right, and then we're almost done with the card here. We're actually moving on to the next fight of the night, which is one that's been booked like 18 times, it feels like. So we're not going to do a long breakdown for this one. We've broke this down multiple times. This is the third time they tried to do this fight. Hani Barcelos minus 435, Victor Henry plus 330, over under set at 2.5, over 2.5 minus 105, under 2.5 minus 125. Hani, all in all, great wrestling, was part of the Olympic team. 100%, like 90% takedown defense. So super good wrestling. Very, very crisp striking. I wish he could throw a little more. It's an okay volume. It's enough. Good wins against like Saeed and Nurmagomedov. Kali Taha isn't the greatest one. Chris Gutierrez is a pretty good one, especially finishing him. About it, honestly. He beats everyone he's supposed to. He had a little bit of a hiccup against Timur Valiev, but Timur's pretty good, and that was a really close fight. His jiu-jitsu, he's a black belt. So he literally is an Olympic wrestler, Brazilian jiu-jitsu black belt, super powerful, hits like a truck, good striking. There's literally nothing wrong with this guy. This guy is a top 15 guy in the weight class. He's just getting a little older. I want to say he's like 34, 35 years old, or he's 34 knocking on 35. I think he turns 35 like next month. So we do have to watch out for that. 35 is kind of old for a bantamweight. However, he's fighting Victor Henry, who's 34 as well. So he's just as old. He's making his UFC debut. Yeah, Victor Henry's one of these guys that has done he's paid his dues on the regional scene. He's also very well rounded. He has good wrestling, good striking, good jiu-jitsu. He's never fought in the UFC before, and Hani's just a little better at everything. Even though Victor's good at it all, Hani's just better. So again, and I also saw Victor he gets rocked a ton. I don't think he's ever officially been knocked out. I know Josh Barnett's his coach. He's a good coach. Yeah, I'm not showing that he's ever been knocked out, but he gets rocked a ton and he's kind of hittable. So again, this kind of reminds me of the Matt Frivola where Terrence McKinney knocked him out and I called it. He keeps getting rocked. Eventually he's going to go out. This might be the time Victor goes out with Hani, in all honesty. So the pick is going to be Hani. The bet minus 435 is too much. I don't want to bet the over under. The fact that I haven't seen him go out yet. So I'll just throw Barcelos and some parlays and call it a day. And then the next fight of the night, we are looking at my guy Ilya Topuria going up against Charles Jourdain on short notice. Topuria minus 510, don't like that. Charles Jourdain plus 375, over under set at 1.5, which surprised me. Over 1.5 minus 145, under 1.5 plus 115. You want to talk about people that are well-rounded. We have Ilya Topuria here, super young. UFC is hot on this guy. Undefeated prospect from Spain, 11-0, only 24 years old. Initially was just a good wrestler and a black belt in jiu-jitsu, but we see him going over to MMA Masters and getting better and better on the feet. Now all of a sudden he's knocking out Damon Jackson. He's knocking out Ryan Hall. Like, this dude is he's always short and stocky in stature, and now he can put that power to use. Beautiful body work. I have zero negatives about him. I know that he gassed out a little bit in his debut against Yusuf Zalal. However, one, Yusuf pushes a pace. Two, he took the fight on short notice. And most importantly, he was dealing with COVID right before that fight. So outside of that, I've never seen him gas. So I think the COVID and the short notice had a lot more to do with it than people are leading on. So I literally don't have any negatives. The only negatives I have on him is that he only has 11 pro fights. But I mean, when you're winning them all, what are you supposed to do? That takes us to Charles. Charles is good, man. Honestly, I like Charles. People hate on him a little bit, or they say he's just there to make exciting fights. Just because he's exciting doesn't mean he's not good. He has pretty good striking. It's odd because I believe he's a black belt on the ground as well, but he does get choked out quite a bit. I know Julian Erosa, Darce choked him. Oh, is that the only time? Oh, that's the only time he's ever been finished. I feel like I see him in a lot of precarious positions. Like, I guess he's just confident that no one's going to catch him. But yeah, predominantly a striker right now. He's not the greatest wrestler. You can't take him down. He's like 40% takedown defense. It's not good. But he's super high volume on the feet, a lot more than Ilya. So that does concern me just a touch. However, he's taking this fight on short notice. Ilya was supposed to fight Masvar Evloev. Completely different styles and a lot easier of a fight for him here, going up against Charles. I think on the feet, it's even 50-50. But Charles throws more. When it comes to wrestling, it's not even close. Ilya kills him. When it comes to jiu-jitsu, it's not even close. Ilya kills him. So the fact that it's 50-50 on one avenue and a big advantage Ilya the other two, that's definitely going to be my pick as Topuria. In regards to the bet, I don't like the 1.5 for the over-under. Charles has only been finished once, but he's another one of these guys that gets rocked all the time and doesn't go out. I don't know if Ilya is going to be the one to put him out on his little streak he's on. I prefer he just takes him down and taps him out. So we'll just take Ilya. Minus 510 is so much chalk. So the pick is Ilya, and you'll have to put Toria in a parlay there to get any sort of value. All right, and then the next fight, we're actually going to move into the main card. So again, make sure you give this video a like, go over on the Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, like all those videos, and make sure you're paying attention post weigh-ins to what reads we're actually on come fight day. But yeah, we'll go ahead and we'll start with the black belt hunter, the sickest name in UFC, Rodolfo Vieira, minus 225, going up against Wellington Turman at plus 185. Over under set at 1.5. Interesting. Over 1.5 is minus 145. Under 1.5 is plus 115. Let's start with the black belt hunter. We'll see Rodolfo Vieira as 8-1. That one loss coming to Fluffy Hernandez via submission, which kind of shocked the world, but we kind of called it here. That was our biggest claim to fame. I think that was right before I started doing the pod, but I bet it for sure. Vieira, world-class jiu-jitsu, probably one of the best jiu-jitsu practitioners the UFC has ever had. However, on the feet, all he has is a jab, which may be all he needs in all honesty. He is very, very good wrestling, but again, he's one of the greatest jiu-jitsu practitioners. Great wrestling can get you there, but if you survive, he has no cardio whatsoever. He has a round worth of cardio. In his last fight, you saw him really, really just take his time with Dustin Stolfus, and all he did was jab him for 10 minutes. And then they said, okay, you have 5 minutes. Go ahead and get it done. And he took him down and he tapped him out right away, literally in under 2 minutes. So he could have done that right off the get-go, but if he did that and he didn't finish it, that's when they're tired. That's when he gets tired, and then he's susceptible to a finish, which happened against Fluffy. So he was very scared of that. So I feel like he's going to come out and try his little jab thing again, show off his new stand-up. Only problem being, I think Wellington is the better striker. Not by much, don't get me wrong. Wellington is not a good striker. He's not a good fighter by any means. But Rodolfo, all he has is a jab. Wellington at least has a little bit more. He's also a black belt, so he's okay. I mean, he's good on the ground. That's what he wants to do. He wants to take you down. His takedowns are pretty good. His wrestling's decent, offensively at least. I don't really know how his takedown defense is. Not a lot of people shoot on him, solely on the fact that he is a bad chin. You can knock this dude out. You crack him once, he's out. He cannot. Bruno Silva knocked him out the first time he touched him. Andrew Sanchez knocks out absolutely nobody, but he killed Wellington Turman. I don't know how he survived against Carl Roberson. I guess he just didn't catch him. But again, he has really, really bad chin. The kid's young too. Like, he's only 25 years old. He trains with the champ right now in Glover Teixeira. But you can't train a chin. Like, if you have one, you have one. If you don't, you don't. And he does not. Luckily, Vieira is not exactly any sort of knockout artist. I don't think he has any knockouts. All of his wins are via submission. So, I don't know. Wellington does slow as well, and he's very hittable. This fight is tricky, man. You're basically betting talent versus cardio, and the other guy's cardio is not good. It's just a smidge better. The odds don't do us any favors either, with Rodolfo being over minus 200. The value is definitely on Turman. But as I'm staring at this man, I don't think I can bet him. I can't do it. So the pick is going to be Rodolfo. The bet, honestly, would be fight doesn't go the distance. I know it's probably going to be a little steamed at like minus, I don't even know what it is, honestly. But the minus 1.5 is minus 145. So it's probably going to end up being like minus 300 for fight doesn't go the distance. But that's the only way I would go here. I can't. Or if you think that Rodolfo is going to take his time again with this jab so that he doesn't gas himself out. I mean, Turman's probably not going to finish him by any means. So actually, the pick will be Rodolfo. The bet will be the over 1.5 here. Minus 145 is not the worst odds. I don't want to parlay that. I would bet it straight. But the over 1.5, minus 145, you can take that so that they, in case Rodolfo wants to pace himself. And then the next fight of the night is actually one that I kind of got talked into. We have Saeed Nurmagomedov at minus 180 going up against Cody Stamann at plus 155. And money's coming in on Nurmagomedov. I saw Cody Stamann as high as plus 170 earlier today. Over under set at 2.5, over 2.5 minus 290, under 2.5 plus 215. Let's start with Saeed. We haven't seen him in a while. We haven't seen him since the Striegel fight. And that was, God, that was like, I feel like that was like a year and a half ago. When was that? That was Tapology in 2020, October of 2020. Oh, God. Yeah, we haven't seen him in quite some time. So this dude took like a year and a half off. I know he had some infections and stuff like that. This dude, you see Nurmagomedov and you just assume he's a phenomenal Russian wrestler. He's not. He is a training partner of Zabit, and he is a phenomenal striker. A ton of spinning kicks, spinning elbows, spinning back fists. He does all the spins. He manages distance well. Don't get me wrong. He can wrestle. He's a very, very good wrestler. It's just not what he prefers to do. He is going to have a 6-inch reach advantage here over Stamann, which is very concerning, especially if you can keep this thing on the feet. His jiu-jitsu is fine. He has a lot of submission wins here. I don't think he's ever been tapped out. So he is perfectly fine there. Even looking at the Ronnie fight, it was interesting. It was 1-1, and then he went for a spin. He got taken down, and Barcelos just kind of kept him down there. Otherwise, that was a 50-50 fight. Saeed's good, man. He's good everywhere. He's very, very well-rounded, and he is great on the feet. If this is a stand-up battle and he can keep this on the feet, he is most definitely going to win. He might finish Cody, in all honesty. I know Stamann's very, very durable. I don't know if he's ever been knocked out, but Saeed could definitely do it. The only difference, especially with that 5-inch reach advantage, only thing here is that Cody's been impressing me, and he's been impressing me in losses. He looked very, very good in the Merab fight. I think Merab is great, and he went toe-to-toe with him, and I think that was 1-1 going into the last round as well. Jimmy Rivera, he should have done a little better, but it is what it is. Brian Kelleher is a little bit of a gatekeeper, but he looked very impressive there. Song Yadong was a draw, but Cody won that fight. They were just trying to help Song. Aljamain didn't look the greatest. Beat Alejandro Perez, beat Brian Caraway. Like, he has fought nothing but the best of the best in the UFC, in all honesty. He's a phenomenal wrestler. He has good striking. He's just pillow fisted, and he will be at a reach disadvantage. So if he's going to win this, he has to lean on his wrestling, and he will. I've seen him go out there and wrestle people like this all the time. Yeah, I don't know, man. I think it's the value. Saeed keeps us standing, he wins. Cody gets us to the ground, he wins. And I don't know which is going to happen. So if I have plus 170 on a side, plus 155 when I put it down, I'm probably going to bet that. This probably goes, I would say it probably hits the over, but yeah, the pick is going to be Saeed. I would definitely pick Nurmagomedov, but the bet, plus 170 for Cody, man. If money keeps coming the other way, I will have the value's definitely on Cody, and the bet would be Cody. All right. And then the next fight takes us to one of my favorite fighters. We have Michel Pereira, minus 290, going up against Andre Filo. Over under set at 2.5, over 2.5 plus 110, under 2.5 minus 140. Let's start with one of the goats in Michel Pereira. This dude is fucking crazy. I saw him live in Rochester for his very first very first UFC fight against Hot Chocolate Danny Roberts. I said, who is this guy? Did a little bit of research as we were driving to the event in the car, and I said, oh my God, this guy's crazy. And you know what? He's fucking crazy. He does backflips in the cage. He break dances on the way to the octagon. He's someone that I absolutely love to watch, but I can't bet because he has good striking, very powerful, very fast. He has good wrestling. He just pulls it out of nowhere, catches you element of surprise. Very good at that. Is supposedly a black belt on the ground, but the only submission I saw was that rear naked choke against Salim, and he didn't even have hooks in it. It looks a little shaky. But it supposedly is a black belt in jiu-jitsu, and I'm not going to question that. The only issue is he gasses, and he doesn't slow, he gasses. And that's a little concerning here. The good news is he's fighting Andre, who's taking this fight on short notice, who also has a little bit of a gas tank problem. He doesn't gas, especially the way Michel does, but he does slow throughout the fight. It's his UFC debut, short notice. I know he's at a great camp at Sanford. He has pretty decent boxing, but that's pretty much all he has. He comes out here and he tries to knock you out in the first round, and that's it. He knocked out James Vick, but James Vick, that fight was close up until that. And he was really struggling with all the kicks of James Vick. James Vick is notoriously has one of the worst chins in the history of the UFC. So all he should do is catch him once. He also fought another UFC vet in Stefan Sekulic, but he went ONT when left. There's a reason he's not in the UFC, but he did knock him out, so that was a good look. He fought Chris Curtis, who's now in the UFC, and got knocked out. But hey, Chris Curtis is very good. What are you gonna do? But yeah, his wrestling is okay. He's in Sanford. It should be better where he's at. He could be improving. He's not super old. He's only 27 years old. So if he gets better there, he's good to go. Otherwise, he's in a little bit of trouble. He's a You can back him up, and especially with all the power and speed Michel's going to come with him, if come at him with the first 2 rounds. I don't know how he's going to react to that. I don't know. But then when he starts to lose, he just pressures you and he tries to take you out. But then I look at like losses to Chidi and Kawani. That's not a good loss. So, I mean, he has a few losses on here, and they're predominantly by knockout. And Michel loves to knock people out. So, all in all, Michel's the better wrestler. He's the better striker, and he's the better jiu-jitsu practitioner. Andre has the better cardio, but just by a smidge. So I think Michel can win the first 2 and then kind of coast in the last round like he did against Nico Price. So the pick is going to be in Pereira. The bet is going to end up being Pereira at minus 290, but don't put him in a ton of parlays. I think he wins the fight 80% of the time. If it was talent, but you also have to factor in how crazy he is. So that drops to like 60% because he is wild. He has multiple disqualifications in the UFC for doing crazy stuff. So just keep that in mind. And then that's going to take us to our title fights. We have Davidson Figueroa as a dog. Figgy's a plus 155 dog. Brandon Moreno, minus 180 favorite. Over, under, set at 3.5. Last fight ended in 3rd round, so it makes sense. Over 3.5 minus 125, under 3.5 minus 105. Let's start with Figgy. Figgy is a little overrated, in my opinion. Figgy, he's very hittable. You're not going to knock him out. He's very hard to do. He's never been knocked out. However, I want to say it's good jiu-jitsu, but it's mainly just a guillotine and a rear naked choke. But he's good at those 2 things. He's very good at those 2 things. His striking's okay. It's a little overrated, but he hits so damn hard that it doesn't matter. It looks a lot better even if it is. His wrestling is okay. He's just okay at everything. He's not that good. He is just massive. Like they say, he walks around at 165 pounds or so. He cuts 40 pounds and goes down to 125. Yes, it's a big advantage for him being so much bigger. But you see times where it contradicts what he's trying to do, and it hurts him being so vulnerable from cutting all that weight. He is just leaving himself gassed and his body depleted, and he didn't look the greatest the last fight. I know I'm not trying to make excuses. I know a lot of people say that, but he really, honestly, watching the embeddeds, did not look the greatest. He's just, I think it's too much weight to cut. I think he has to go to 135. I think he'll be better there. When it comes to Moreno, it's the same spiel, man. Nothing has changed for Moreno. He has a 2-inch reach advantage, though. He has good jiu-jitsu. I would say it's a wash in the jiu-jitsu department, in all honesty. He has good wrestling. I would say he's the better wrestler. He's kind of hittable, too. Figgy gets hit more than he dishes out. Brandon is like even. It's like right on the edge. So he's a little hittable too. He has okay cardio. It's okay. He did gas out a little bit in their fifth round, in their 5-rounder. Figgy came out and won that fifth round, in my opinion, but in the first fight, but it is what it is. But Moreno, definitely the faster guy. So he has good striking, good wrestling, good jiu-jitsu, just an overall generalist. The only thing that's keeping me from betting Moreno is the fact that one, Figgy at plus money, we're not going to see that often. I do like that. And two, Figgy went to the one, he did the one thing that I always bet on, and that is fight ready fighters. And he went to fight ready for this camp. They make good fighters great. That's what they do. James Krause, he takes really mediocre fighters and makes them good. Fight Ready makes good fighters great. And Figgy is a good fighter. If they're able to make him and bring his full potential out, he definitely beats Moreno. And the thing is, he beat Moreno the first fight. I know it was a draw, but that's because he lost a point for a low blow. So technically, on the judges' scorecards, without a point deduction, he wins that fight. This fight is 1-1. If he has a better weight cut and is at a better camp and brings something new to Moreno, Moreno could be in some trouble. I think it's a 50-50 fight, and I'm going to take the value here. So the pick is going to be Figgy. The bet's going to be Figgy, plus 155. Got to take the dog or pass approach. And then that takes us to the main event. We have Ciryl Gane at minus 150 going up against Francis Ngannou at plus 130. Over under set at 2.5. Over 2.5 minus 110. Under 2.5 minus 120. Basically a pick 'em. Let's start with the former champ, the Predator, Francis. 35 years old. It would be a red flag, but we're in heavyweight, so that's still young for a heavyweight. He has good striking. It's a little overrated, but that power, man. That's all he needs. He's a little lower volume than I would like, but again, when you throw that much heat, you can only do it so much. He's almost hittable himself. He does land more than he gets hit, but by the slightest of margins. Again, that power is like nothing we've ever seen in the UFC before at any weight class. His takedown defense is okay. I know Stipe's numbers are going to skew it a little, but there's not a lot of heavyweights that can wrestle like Stipe. And Ciryl Gane is very good at mixing it in, but I don't think he's good enough to take down Francis easily. Francis is a 2-inch reach advantage, which I think is big. And he does slow down as the fight goes on, but that power carries over into all 5 rounds. All it takes is one shot with him. Look, and again, the big story here is that they used to be training partners. I know that Cyril's his camp released the footage of them fighting, and it looked like Gane was getting the better of him. But at the same time, as if you're Francis, you can only throw so hard. So I mean, power does make a difference. I know with Gane, he's definitely the better striker. He has high volume, the complete opposite of Francis. He should just dance around them. They're in the bigger cage, so that should definitely benefit him. He hardly gets hit, man. He averages like 5 significant strikes per minute and only gets hit with like 2. Like he doubles you, more than doubles everyone up. Like I had aforementioned, he'll mix in some wrestling. He has a submission win against Dontel Mays. He's very, very well rounded, good cardio. He went a hard 5 against Volkov. He does everything right. He's undefeated. He's better everywhere than Francis, in all honesty. But Francis has that power. And if you're going to give me someone with a 2-inch reach advantage that is plus money with that power, all it takes is one punch and he has 25 minutes to do it. I think Gane is going to win the fight. And what I think I'll end up doing is having Gane in just one parlay. And then if it's still going, I'm going to hedge with Francis. So the pick is going to be Gane. The bet is actually going to end up being Francis. But again, I'll probably have a parlay with Gane and then just hedge with Francis in all honesty. Plus 130, the money's still going towards Ciryl. So you can see up to like plus 150 on Francis and Gane, the current champion. And the current champions have a pretty good track record of retaining their titles as dogs. Look at Charles Oliveira, just did it against Dustin Poirier. Just look at Stipe originally against Francis did it. In the first meeting, you look at Jan Blachowicz retaining his title against Adesanya as a dog. I mean, I know they were both champions, but still, you just see recent history. The dog champions keep winning. So the pick is okay. Peter Yan versus Aljamain Sterling. Sketchy. Peter Yan is definitely winning that fight, and he was the dog when that fight went off. So again, those are just the recent examples I can think of. So the pick is going to be Francis for the reason of the value. Or sorry, the bet is going to be Francis. The pick is going to be Gane. I do think Gane wins this fight 80% of the time, but one shot with Francis is all I need at plus money. So pick Gane, bet Francis. And that's UFC 270, baby. Again, make sure you give this video a like. Follow us over on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok at Stats and Stacks. The links will be in the description below. We are on fire as of right now. We're looking to continue our winning ways. So let's go ahead and let's just get paid, baby.